Welcome back, everyone. So we stop here with the mappings between the concepts and the user experience. The product is designed to support or invoke. For example, one can revisit the page through looking at the list of visited sites, most frequently visited or saved websites. How the various metaphors, concepts, and their relationships are organized determines the user experience. By explaining this, the design team can debate the merit of each method of interacting and how they support the main concepts. For example, saving, revisiting, categorizing, and reorganizing web pages and their mapping to the domain. They can also begin discussing whether a new overall metaphor may be preferable that combines the activities of browsing, searching, and revisiting. So these metaphors, concepts, and their relationships determines the user experience. So there's this invisible thing that allows the user to easy to use the thing easily. By explaining this, the design team can debate the merit of each method of interacting and how they support the main concepts. So the design team basically are able to get this information and see how they support their main point or their main goal. For example, saving, revisiting, categorizing, and reorganizing web page. So they always check how those saving, revisiting, and then categorizing and reorganizing, basically how clean the website is. Uh, they always reflect on that if that is the most convenient for the user. And they're mapping to the task domain. So does it support the task that they want to do with the customer? And they employ different measurements to be able to improve that to achieve their task. They can also begin discussing whether a new overall metaphor may be preferable that combines the activities of browsing, searching, and revisiting. So, a new, completely new metaphor could help them, or maybe better, what we call in code refactoring the entire metaphor or function. So in the front end, it's about refactoring of the metaphor. In the back end, refactoring of the function. In turn, this can let the design team to articulate the kinds of relationships between them, such as containership. For example, what is the best way to sort and revisit saved pages? And how many and what types of containers should be used. For example, folders, bars, windows. So the type of containers that could be used is folders, bars, windows. The same enumeration of concepts can be repeated for other functions of the web browser, both current and new. So the design team could use this information to redesign the folders, bars, and windows in the website. Usually, that's the front end tool for like menu. The same enumeration of concepts can be repeated for other functions of the web browser, both current and new. So this is the same technique that designer use for every function of the websites. Does it support, for example, for a customer CRM tool, customer relationship management tool? Does it support the customer support or customer service to use the tool? In so doing, the design team can begin to work out systematically what will be the simplest and most effective and memorable way of supporting people while browsing the internet. So in this way, they can systematically employ the simplest and most effective and memorable way. Um the best conceptual models are often those that appear obvious and simple. That is, the operations they support are intuitive to use. However, sometimes applications can end up being based on overly complex conceptual models, especially if they are the result of a series of upgrades where more and more functions and ways of doing something are added to the original conceptual model. Well, tech companies often provide videos showing what new features are included in an upgrade. Users may not pay attention to them or skip them entirely. Furthermore, many people prefer to stick to the methods they have always used and trusted, and not surprisingly become annoyed when they find one or more have been removed or changed. For example, when Facebook initially rolled out revised newsfeed, many users at the time were very unhappy, as evidenced by their postings and tweets, preferring the old interface that they had gotten used to. So the structure of your website becomes the interface. It's also an investment in the future because one change in interface could lead the customer out, a lot of customer out of your business. So you have to invest in these conceptual models, make sure that it still be around moving forward, even if the new developer or software engineer comes to your company. Once formulated and agreed upon, a conceptual model can then become a shared blueprint, leading to a testable proof of concept. It can be represented as a textual description or in a diagrammatic form, depending on the preferred lingua franca used by the design team. It can be used not just by user experience designers, but also to communicate ideas to business, engineering, finance, product, and marketing units. So once you are able to formulate this basic concept, you can use a diagram to show that to your business partner. The conceptual model is used by the design team as the basis from which they can develop more detailed and concrete aspects of the design. And so, in doing so, design teams can produce simpler designs that match up with user tasks, allow for faster development time, result in improved customer uptake, and need less training and customer support. So, this is where the detailed and concrete aspects of the design uh, came in the conceptual model. Another term that is sometimes used is a design concept, which is a set of ideas for a design. Typically, it is composed of scenarios, images, storyboards, mood boards, or text-based documents. So another term for a design concept, composed of scenarios, images, storyboards, mood boards, or text-based documents. So here's an example of that. This is the first page of a design concept for an ambient display. So follow the white lights. It's like these are the instruction, and these are the image. Many products are actually based on well-established conceptual models. For example, a conceptual model based on the core aspects of the customer experience when at a store underlies most online shopping websites. These include placing items that the customer wants to purchase into a shopping cart or basket and proceeding to checkout when they're ready to make the purchase. So just like the card style in your newsfeed or your phone, um, the store was actually similar to a physical store. So basically, they are trying to like mimic things that we already do in everyday life for them to be memorable because it reduces cognitive load. It allows us to do things that we do habitually and translate the skills to other domain easily. So that's the power of metaphor. Collections of patterns are now readily available to help design the interface for these core transactional processes, together with many other aspects of a user experience. Meaning interaction designers do not have to start from scratch every time they design or redesign an application. So interaction designers often do not need to start from scratch because there's already a pattern developed for them. Examples include patterns for online forums and navigation on mobile phones. So for mobile phones, there's already an established online forums or navigation. You don't need to like create your style. You just need to import it from already established library. It is rare for completely new conceptual modules to emerge that transform the way daily and work activities carried out at an interface. Those that did fall into this category include the following three classics: the desktop, developed by Xerox in the late 1970s; the digital spreadsheet, developed by Dan Berklin and Bob Framston in the late 1970s; and the World Wide Web, developed by Tim Berners-Lee in the late 1980s. All of those innovation made was previously limited to a few skilled people accessible to all while greatly expanding what is possible. So this innovation that allows limited the what used to be limited people to do is actually rare. So usually we just combine things that's already exist, um, or that other people just don't notice because they don't know what are the things that exist already. That's why it's important to understand computer science. The graphical desktop dramatically changed how office tasks could be performed, including creating, editing, and printing documents. Performing this task using the computers prevalent at the time was significantly more arduous, having to learn and use a command language such as DOS or Unix. Digital spreadsheets made accounting highly flexible and easier to accomplish, enabling a diversity of new computations to be performed simply through filing in interactive boxes. The World Wide Web allowed anyone to browse a network of information remotely. Since then, e-readers and digital authoring tools have introduced new ways of reading documents and books online, supporting associated activities such as annotating, highlighting, linking, commenting, copying, and tracking. So the World Wide Web back then completely changed the way we view information. So the information has been democratized. Xerox was based on conceptual model that included the familiar knowledge of an office. Interface metaphors. Metaphors are considered to be a central component of a conceptual model. They provide a structure that is similar in some way to aspects of a familiar entity or entities, but they also have their own behaviors and properties. Another well-known one is the search engine, originally coined in the early 1990s to refer to a software tool, sorry, that index and retrieve files remotely from the internet using various algorithms to match terms selected by the user. So a search engine basically came from the engine, the actual mechanical engine, and it uses behind the scene it uses algorithms to match terms selected by the user. So the metaphor invites comparison between a mechanical engine which has several working parts and the everyday action of looking in the different places to find something. The function supported by a search engine also include other features besides those belonging to an engine that searches, such as listing and prioritizing the results of a search. It also does these actions in quite different ways from how a mechanical engine works or how a human being might search a library for books on a given topic. So the research engine added a feature just like how Windows have or the Windows has zoom and zoom out properties. This search engine added additional properties such as sorting. It does these actions in quite different ways from how a mechanical engine works or how a human being might search a library for books on a given topic. The similarities implied by the use of the term search engine, therefore, are at a general level. So the similarities are at a general level, not in detail. So they're not really similar. It's just in on a higher level or conceptual level, they are similar. Making a purchase online usually involves spending money by inputting one's credit or debit card details. People want to feel reassured that they are doing this correctly and do not get frustrated with lots of forms to fill in. Designing the interface to have a familiar metaphor with an icon of a shopping cart or basket, not a cash register, makes it easier for people to know what to do at the different stages of making a purchase. Most important, placing an item in the basket does not commit the customer to purchase it there and then. It also enables them to browse further and select other items as they might in a physical store. An interface metaphor that has become staple in UX is the card. So here's the card I'm talking about. Many of the social media apps such as Twitter and Pinterest present their content on digital cards that are based on the idea behind most physical cards. They have a familiar form, having been around for a long time. Just think of how many kinds there are: playing cards, business cards, birthday cards, credit cards, and postcards, to name a few. They have strong associations, providing an intuitive way of organizing limited content that is card size. They can easily be flicked through, sorted, and themed. They structure content into meaningful chunks, similar to how paragraphs are used to chunk a set of related sentences into distinct sections. So the key properties or feature of this card is it is like sentences. It uh, is themed, so the content are structured into meaningful chunks. So here is a sample of that card approach. It is divided by section. So here is a section. Here, here, here. Why are metaphors so popular? People frequently use metaphors and analogies. Here we use the terms interchangeably as a source of inspiration for understanding and explaining to others what they are doing or trying to do in terms that are familiar to them. Metaphors are commonly used to explain something that is familiar or hard to grasp by way of comparison with something that is familiar and easy to grasp. For example, they are frequently employed in education where teachers use them to introduce something new to students by comparing the new material with something they already understand. It is not surprising, therefore, to see how widely metaphors have been used in interaction design to conceptualize abstract, hard to imagine, and difficult to articulate computer-based concepts and interactions in more concrete and familiar terms and as graphical visualizations at the interface level. Metaphors and analogies are used in these three main ways. As a way of conceptualizing what we are doing, for instance, live streaming, as a conceptual model instantiated at the interface level, for example, the card metaphor, as a way of visualizing an operation such as an icon of a shopping cart into which items. So basically, this metaphor are applied in computer-based concepts. And interactions is in more concrete and familiar terms such as GUI. So it is being applied on different interfaces such as this GUI. So another thing is that for interface, remember guys that different website has different interface depending on the UI interface that was created by their UI engineer or front end engineer. So the reason metaphors and analogies are used by that UI is because it's a way to conceptualize what we are doing or where we are or what we are doing on the website, for instance, live streaming, as a conceptual model instantiated at the interface level, for example, the card metaphor. So it could be used at the uh, interface level, such as a card, as a way of visualizing an operation, such as an icon of a shopping cart, into which item. So it's also used to visualize and items. However, the potential downside using interface metaphors they don't scale very well, especially when trying to describe how complex system works. Alan Cooper in 2020 in a blog piece argues that we should abandon metaphors at the interface and explain the interface in terms of the concepts, function, and relationship underlying the system. He points out how difficult it can be to find a usual visual metaphor for many tasks conducted at the interface, such as buying ticket or finding a reference. So usually this UI interface has a different like interface for a website depending on the specific task. So sometimes it could be hard because a lot of things that we do is become task specific or domain specific that it's not effective to use metaphor. So sometimes we need to describe the specific tasks that we do on the website. For example, like buying a ticket or finding a reference. So interface type, we're gonna continue with the interface type in the next video. Again, guys, we were able to discuss or continue the interface metaphors, how we use metaphors at the interface of our UI, and then conceptual models in the previous video. And again, we will continue with different types of interfaces. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video, please.